Hello and welcome to Guides.Global. My name's John Howell and I am the editor, and with me I have Başak Yıldız Orkun, who is a lawyer working here in Bodrum in Turkey. So thank you, Başak, for being here.
Thank you, John.
If this is the first of our accident videos you've had a look at, then I would suggest that it would be a good idea to look at our accident general video before you look at this one, because in the general video we talk about the general principles of how accidents are dealt with, and in this one we're only going to look at the differences that apply in the case of defective premises. So Başak, people all the time get injured in defective premises. They might be in a hotel where the stairs are broken, or they might be in the street and there's a big hole they fall into. It's a very common form of injury, isn't it?
Correct, yeah. It happens. And obviously when you got injured, you want somebody to pay it,
You want someone to pay your medical bills.
Yeah, exactly.
So accidents that arise from defective premises are in essence dealt with in exactly the same way as any other type of accident.
Yeah, actually, it's exactly the same thing. If there's an insurance, it is much easier to sort this out. But if there is no insurance, then you have to go for litigation.
Yes.
And yet again, it is going to be referring to Code of Obligations of Turkey, because as a premise owner or like an operator, you hold a certain liability. So you will be going for a couple of years' time litigation case.
So, there are two main situations in which accidents arise because of defective premises. The first is where you're in a building that belongs to somebody, whether it's a hotel or someone's home or a bar, and in that case it's the owner of the building who's responsible.
Owner, or if the owner rented it out,
or the tenant.
Yeah, the tenant
Yes.
might be the responsible.
Yes.
Actually, you put the claim to both, but if the owner just proves that he has nothing to do with the development, so yeah, it's going to be the
Yes.
tenant. So, yeah.
So that would be a case brought against one or other of those.
Yeah.
And I suppose in those cases the big question is, do they have any insurance?
Insurance covering the third-party liability.
And if they don't have the insurance, then do they have any money so that if you win the case, you're going to get something out of it?
Correct.
Yes. So that's fairly straightforward. If you have a claim relating to an accident that occurred, for example, in the street, where there was a big hole in the road and you fell into it, that will be a claim against the government, as I understand it.
Yeah, government or the relevant department,
Yeah,
I would
the
say,
department
yeah,
of
because
the
sometimes
government,
it is council,
It could
sometimes
be
it's
Minister of Transport.
Exactly.
Yes,
So
yes. But it's a claim against the state in some form or another.
yeah,
And would the same be true if you had an accident, for example, in a state hospital?
yeah.
So all of those cases, your claim is against the government. Now, are the rules any different? In other words, would a judge dealing with that case award compensation on exactly the same basis as if it was a private? So the only difference is who the case is directed against.
Correct.
And the final question really I wanted to deal with when it came to accidents on premises is lawyers talk about accidents as a result of defective premises, but of course the question is, what is a defective premise? And different countries have different standards. In some countries, tiny defects would give rise to a claim, and in other countries, the courts would just say, but it's all like this. You know, this is no worse than average, and therefore we aren't going to award any compensation. Now, when you wander around Bodrum, and Bodrum is a wealthy city in Turkey, you do see an awful lot of places where, you know, the highways are not entirely smooth, where there are holes, where there are stairs that are not well repaired, and so on.
Yeah.
So does the court have a high standard for defective premises, or does it say it's got to be worse than average before you can claim?
I would look from another perspective, actually. The judge will look, is there any damage? Is there any loss? And whether this damage and loss caused because of a defect. It doesn't matter how defect is big or small or whatever it is. if somebody damaged because of that defect, so that will be considerable as a case by the judge.
So even if, let's say I fell over, in fact, very nearly happened when I was coming to Turkey. I was going into our hotel and I was taken down the stairs to my room with no lights, and the stair at the bottom was broken.
Okay.
And so I fell over and hit my head on a stone wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so in any country, I think that would be considered to be a potential claim.
Yes.
Hasten to say, I'm not going to make a claim, but even if that situation is common in Turkey, the judge would say, well, it may be common, but it's wrong, and
of course
it caused the injury, so you have to pay compensation.
Yeah, I think common doesn't make the things legal. I mean, because if it's a defect, it's a defect. So
yes.
If there should be a light according to our health and safety rules,
yes,
and according to the normal life standards, if you would expect it to be lightened, then it is going to be like a failure.
Yes.
So if there is a fault of someone which is caused a damage of another one, then there is a case.
And I guess then the question arises as whether a judge thinks that something is a defect or not a defect. You know, if there's a piece of pavement where there's this much, 5 millimeters rather, of irregularity, is that a defect or is that just normal?
Yeah, and if does it give any harm, any damage to another party? That's another thing.
And I guess the other thing we should mention, because it occurs quite often in defective premises cases, is that if the accident was partly your fault, then you will only get a percentage of the compensation. So, the common one is that the person was drunk. Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
They come out of a nightclub at 4 o'clock in the morning and they fall over. Did they fall over because the pavement was uneven, or did they fall over because they were drunk?
Yeah.
And so, how does that work here? So, how does the judge deal with that? The
expertise will be, actually not the judge, judge again will be assigning an expert about that. And basically the expertise will be looking, they will be presuming like a health and safety, like a professionals or something like that. And they will be checking whether, if that lighting was there, even if you were in a position to fall down or not, they will be just making a judgment about that, and then they will be giving their assessment, and the judge will presumably decide if it's a very technical report, they will follow up the expertise report.
And is the expert appointed as a neutral expert by the court who is advising the court, or is he appointed by the person who's making the claim? Or
no, by the court.
It's always by
independent,
the court. So it's independent.
Yeah.
And if you disagree with his opinion,
you can object.
You can object.
If you are right about your objections, the judge may ask for another expertise report.
Okay. So, accidents on defective premises, really pretty simple. The system is exactly the same as for any other type of accident, and the real question is, who is responsible? Do they have any money?
Yeah.
Başak, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Hope you found that useful. If you did, please like the video or follow this channel. Do remember to read Başak's fuller written article about accidents in defective premises, and of course don't forget our book, How Things Really Work in Turkey, which Başak has helped us write. See you soon. Bye.